So we're going to talk about cells and energy. Before we talk about the energy in the cell and how it's used, I'm going to just introduce energy in general, okay? Because if you know from other years, the law of energy is energy can't be created or destroyed, only transformed. So we got to have some starting point. So I'm going to start energy, and then we're going to work our way into the cell. So energy that powers life comes from the sun, and it's for all functions of organisms. It starts there, but the ones that use it directly are plants through a process called photosynthesis. They are known as autotrophs or producers because they actually make their own food through this process or transfer energy. The process involves carbon dioxide and water and is powered by the light of the sun, and it creates carbohydrates, or more specifically glucose and oxygen, which is the air you breathe and the food you eat. So that's why you study plants your whole life, because they make the two most important things, the air you breathe and the food that you eat, or they start that process. So unfortunately, you have to know that reaction. So let's review this whole process. Where does energy start? The sun, okay? And the sun's energy, along with, what's this? Carbon dioxide, and is converted by who? Into what? Food, sugar, okay? Which is a form of chemical energy. So that's the transformation. This energy is taken in by other organisms in a food chain, or is used by, what's this? Your cells. So the glucose is used by the cell, and it makes this molecule of energy that is the energy molecule for all cell functions. Anybody know what it's called? Yep. ATP. Good job. So what is ATP? It's called adenosine triphosphate, okay? And the name is important because it describes its composition, okay? Look at adenosine, and here's triphosphate, which is 3 phosphates, okay? And then it has a sugar in the middle, which is ribose. It is the chief storing, and if you want to underline that word store, because it's actually a molecule that stores energy, and it has to do something in order to release the energy. For what? What is ATP used for? No, it is a molecule that stores energy used for what? I just said in the last slide. ATP is used by cells for what?
Reproduction.
For everything. Reproduction, transporting molecules, assisting speed, everything, okay? It's made up of what? Look at the molecule and tell me. It's right here. What's this? Really? Like it clearly says it right there.
Oh,
Adenosine, and then, whoops, that should say adenosine. Actually, I know what it is. Ribose and phosphate. This word, adenosine, really references these two things together. So let's change this word right in here. I'm going to take this orange right here and crop it out. I'm going to make it bigger. Yeah, right here, and put in the word adenine. No, adenine is the first block.
Oh.
Together, adenine and ribose make up adenosine. Okay? Yeah, I know. If you look at my diagram down here, where's the energy stored? In the phosphates. It's in the bonds of the phosphates. You see these lines? Those are bonds that hold the phosphates together, and they house this energy. When you break a phosphate, or you break a bond that holds the phosphates together, energy is released. So as I mentioned before, if I look at these two, adenine plus ribose, if I circle them on the test and I draw an arrow out, they make up adenosine. Okay? Make sure you fix that in your notes. All right, moving on. Diagram. Whoa. We're going to look at this diagram, and the first thing we're going to talk about is when we break the P bond, okay, in the ATP molecule. What happens? So this is ATP, and I'm breaking this one of these bonds that's full of stored energy. What results when I break that bond? Energy is released. What else? Look at this molecule. What do you think this is? So this is adenosine triphosphate. What do you think is down here? ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate. You only have two. And what's left over? A phosphate. Good. So that's what you've got. You've got a phosphate left over and ADP when energy is released.
So ADP is
Adenosine diphosphate. So you can write that down if you want. Keep in mind that it takes ATP to make ATP. So where did the first ATP come from?
Oh. Sun.
Thank you. That's our only answer because there is none. God. So ATP, when you break a bond, energy is released for cells. ADP and P are left over. And what happens immediately after is, well, if you look at this, what do you think happens immediately after? It recombines and forms ATP back again. So when we start going over the way your cells use or make this molecule of energy, keep in mind that ADP and P combine together to make ATP, and ATP releases the P to release energy. It's constantly going on, back and forth. So it's like a cycle. So how does ATP, how is it made? Okay, for starters, your cells make it in a process called cellular respiration. And all it is photosynthesis backwards. So if you learn photosynthesis, you know cellular respiration. So they take the molecule of sugar that plants made, they combine it with oxygen, and they make carbon dioxide, which is like a waste product because they don't really need it. They make water, and they make the molecule of energy, ATP. Wait for this to start over. You got ATP. You're going to break this bond. Good question. How do you break it? Because molecules are always coming apart and coming back together. Energy is released, ADP and P left over. Okay? All right. So, overview of the process of making ATP. Okay? This is a full overview. What molecules are involved, and this is everything you have to know from here on out. What is needed, what is made, and where does it happen? Okay? So this is a process where ATP is made. Again, I'm repeating and repeating over and over again things. Why? No, why is ATP made? For what? Cells functions. Energy needed for cells functions. What molecules are needed for cellular respiration to happen?
Carbon and oxygen.
Molecules, glucose plus oxygen, and it's what's made? CO2, H2O, and what kind of energy? ATP. Where does this miracle happen? In the cytoplasm, and my chief energy making organelle is the mitochondria. Remember that? So the most ATPs are made here, but some are made here. And think back, some organisms don't have a mitochondria, right? So some energy actually has to be made here or they wouldn't be able to have any energy at all. So it all makes sense.